What's up, peeps? Today I'm going to be doing some shoreline birding on the coast of Vancouver Island, hopefully to see some shorebirds. It was just a few months ago that shorebirds were passing through here, headed north to their breeding grounds, and now, remarkably, some are starting their journey south. I said in one of my last big year update videos that I missed some of the shorebird migration coming through, and so now I'm going to try to see some of those species. I've started here at Oyster Bay Shoreline Park. The only problem is I did not check the tide charts, and tide is pretty low. So the bay that they are usually found has really low water levels. So I'm just going to be headed north, checking the shoreline, and see if I can find any shorebirds. So come along with me, hopefully we see some cool stuff. Let's go birding. The first bird I saw was this regal eagle. Not bad for a first bird of the day. I always see quite a few eagles along these shorelines. They are always spectacular, especially in adult plumage. Checking the shoreline and ocean, the only other birds I could make out were these glaucous-winged gulls. These gulls are huge. They have what I will call here, resting not so nice face, which is actually one of the field marks the gull spurts use. Note their namesake light primaries and pale mantle. They are quite elegant birds if you take a moment to appreciate them. Here's a weird thing I saw along the shore. These squirts of water popping out of the sand. I think these might have been geoducks, which no, are not burrowing oceanside ducks, but rather they are the largest clam in the world and can live as long as 140 years. They are also a delicacy. You may have seen people bite into them on social media, but I didn't dig any up for a mid-morning snack. Being a bit weirded out and not seeing much else, I decided to head back and take another pass of the bay. Before long, I heard a couple killdeer. Killdeer breed locally, so this was not a huge surprise. But trailing close behind was a group of shorebirds. I found what I came to find. Great success. I ran into a group of shorebirds on my second pass of the bay behind me. The first birds I saw were killdeer, and they were accompanied by a group of least sandpipers and western sandpiper. The least sandpipers stuck the closest to shore and gave me the closest views. This was a new bird on the year for me. I was actually looking down on the birds from a bank, which gave me an interesting vantage on their foraging behavior. As their name implies, they are the smallest sandpiper species, being about the size of a sparrow. One of their field marks are their greenish yellow legs, which you can see in these clips. Sometimes their leg color is obstructed by mud, however. These birds look to be adults with heavy streaking on their front and look to still be in their breeding plumage with rusty speckling on their backs. The fact that the tide was low was perfect for this species as they love the muddy shores of water bodies. The second species of small sandpiper, or peep, was western sandpiper, which are really gorgeous in breeding plumage. I just really love that rusty color they have. They have a rusty cap and rusty patterns on their back. It might not be what most people think of colorful plumage, but I think it's quite striking. They were there in considerable numbers. There was probably less than the least sandpiper. There was about a dozen of them present. Mixed in with the westerns, and farther out from the shore, was a single semi-palmated sandpiper, and this was a new bird on the year. Unlike western, which have streaks on their sides, they have a relatively clear or unspotted side, and they just have a bit of a cleaner look overall, and a different color palette. There was also this lone dunlin that was very much focused on preening that morning. They were a bit larger than the other species, which is how I could tell them apart. Maybe the most interesting part of this group of shorebirds was their behavior. They all seem to orbit the killdeer. Killdeer are pretty wary birds and always incessantly call if they feel threatened. Often when the killdeer started calling, for whatever reason, the small shorebirds would crouch down into the mud. We're now in the window of shorebird migration, but these probably could be considered early migrants. I am far from an expert of shorebird ID, but I believe the birds I saw were adults rather than juveniles. This makes sense as juveniles tend to migrate later in the year. So why do some birds migrate early? Well, some might start their journey if their attempt at nesting fails and they don't have enough time to nest again. In some species, one of the breeding pair will leave early, leaving the other to raise the young. All in all, seeing 5 species of shorebirds was pretty great, but the more I watch shorebirds, the more I understand I have a lot more to learn. I was happy about my discovery and hit the road. It's 11 a.m. now. I'm gonna start working my way back north to Campbell River and stopping in a few places along the way. My second stop was here at Stories Beach, which is a beach not far from Oyster Bay, maybe 5 kilometers up the road. I'm not seeing too many birds. There's some turkey vultures and crows flying around, but there is one of my favorite species, the ochre sea star, which, contrary to its name, in these parts is often purple. They might look blob-like, but these sea stars are ferocious predators. Their main prey is mussels. By eating these mussels, they open up places for other creatures to live in these intertidal zones, and for this reason they are considered keystone species of these ecosystems. But they don't eat just mussels, they also eat a variety of other species, including chitons, limpets, snails, and even crabs. After checking out the sea stars, I noticed a couple birds flying towards me from over the ocean. They were great blue heron, which always seem very pterodactyl-y in flight. I stopped on another piece of shoreline on my way back to Campbell River and made a pretty interesting discovery. What I found was a dead harbor seal on the shore, and there's a group of vultures that have surrounded it. I saw the vultures flying above from a few hundred meters away. They were soaring effortlessly over the shore. Their teetering flight with few wing beats is very characteristic for the species. So is their shape, with their wings held high in a V shape. Vultures might not be the most beautiful birds. In fact, they are pretty ugly, but they are also very important to us all due to their role as scavengers. If it wasn't for them, there'd be a lot more carcasses laying around, stinking up the place, and maybe spreading disease. Turkey vultures are renowned for their keen sense of smell, which allows them to detect fresh carcasses over long distances. Now, trigger warning, I'm going to show one shot of the dead seal from far away. Turkey vultures have other charming attributes, like how they pee on their legs to keep cool, or how they throw up partially digested dead meat to ward off predators, but fortunately I did not see any of that behavior that day. All in all, it was a great experience to get some up-close views of these impressive birds. There were quite a few eagles surrounding the scene, soaring above, perched in the trees, and on the rocks of the shore. Eagles, perhaps obviously, are dominant over turkey vultures, but they all seem to have an understanding of each other. Eagles are really a dime a dozen on Vancouver Island, especially along the coast, but you still have to appreciate their size and presence. They are just really big, angry birds. There were a couple ravens creeping on the carcass as well, though unlike the others, they were pretty wary of me and kept their distance. Ravens are incredible birds, not just for their girth, but also their intelligence. And just look at the size of that bill. Those weren't the only scavengers I saw on the shore. I also saw another glaucous-winged gull eating this dead crab. Delicious. It seemed a bit disgusted with itself after, and tried to get the flavor out of its mouth. Well, seeing that gull eat that dead crab has got me ready for lunch. Birding on the ocean side, you never know what you're gonna come across, and I hope you agree with me that those are some good findings. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy birding.